Welcome to the Shifted podcast and video series. Each week we connect with teachers to hear their stories about teaching and learning during a global pandemic. We focus on shifting practices, digital tools and resources, health and wellness, maintaining balance, and supporting our students during these challenging times. The Shifted podcast is from the Greater Victoria School District in beautiful British Columbia, Canada, and is recorded on the unceded territory of the Lekwungen-speaking people, the Songhees and Esquimalt nations. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Shifted podcast and video series. And this week, we are talking to three teacher librarian extraordinaires from middle school, elementary school, and secondary school. And this week's episode, we're going to get a little glimpse into the world of the teacher librarian and what libraries look like during a global pandemic, when we're socially distancing, when we're in learning groups and cohorts, and what is the role of a librarian in a library during this challenging period in our education system. So I'm really pleased to introduce today, we've got Metthea Maddern from Margaret Jenkins School, Katherine O'Connor from Central Middle School, and Geoff Orme from Esquimalt High School. Thank you so much for being here, all three of you. I appreciate your time. And I'd love to just jump right in and get a little look at what's life as a teacher librarian in elementary school looking like these days. Metthea, can you give us a little high-level view of what life's been like in your library at your school this year so far?
Yeah, it is busy as ever, just busy in sort of a different way. So usually the library is like a gathering place. In the morning, it's like the coffee shop. And of course, with social distancing, that's maybe not the thing. So this year I'm finding instead of teachers always coming to me, I'm more often going to them in their classroom. Of course, resources are being taken out of the library pretty much like any other year. And just, I think one of the biggest changes has been our scheduling. Because of the learning cohorts, and my school is quite big, the scheduling was quite complex this year. So the library schedule is a lot different, and that actually has made it busier in here as well.
So in terms of that schedule, tell me a little bit more about that. Do you guys have classes that are signing up for specific times to come in? Or are classes even coming into the library? Or are you bringing stuff to them?
So a combination of both. So for book exchange, the kids come here. We have our cohorts, 2 classes back to back so that those groups are together or following each other in the library. What is different is usually the kids would come every single week to the library, and to kind of limit the traffic through here in a given week. Now the kids are coming every other week instead, and they are taking more books because they have a longer checkout period. So that's how we're dealing with that. And then I also am one of the elementary librarians that teach a prep block, which not all of them do. And usually I teach that in the library, but again, for COVID reasons, I'm going to their classroom. That way we have easy access to pencils, we have easy access to tech and so forth that remains in their classroom. And I'm not having to clean all of that all of the time in between classes.
Really interesting. Katherine, how about you? What's middle school been like this year? I know you're new to the role at Central, but tell us a little bit about what the library at Central's been like since the start of the year.
Yeah, it's been, it's evolved. So when we started out, I was doing entirely holds. So I was going and teaching classes how to put a hold on a book. And then I was like a traveling librarian and delivering them. We've now shifted to where students can come in and take out books, but they also have that skill of how to put a hold or our ebooks or audiobooks. So I noticed that there's been a continuation of using that skill, which is pretty cool. But I'm really pleased that I was able to invite the students back into the library. We don't have, similar to Metthea, we don't have our drop-in lunch times or nutrition break times. And that's definitely something that kids are missing and I'm missing. But I'm able to start a library helpers club starting this week. And there's been a lot of interest in that. And at the middle school, teacher librarians have been planning our Battle of the Books for later this year. And it'll look different, but it's exciting that we're getting to do some of that stuff. So I've been teaching a lot of digital literacy this year, including how to use Google Classroom and our research toolkit, and really helping familiarize them with our online offerings. I also started some online book talks and just trying to find other ways to interact with them when I can't have that one-on-one conversation quite as easily.
You mentioned the Battle of the Books earlier. Can you tell me a little bit more about what that looks like at Central, or will look like?
Well, so far we have the books, we've chosen the books. So we're going to get together hopefully next week to kind of launch it. At the moment, it'll just be getting together probably once a week or once every 2 weeks to talk about the books and get really familiar with the themes and everything that we're loving about these books, or maybe not loving as much, and just really get comfortable talking about books together. When we finally have our event, we've moved it to later in the year, so it'll be May or June this year, and we'll hopefully be having some sort of trivia of using this set of books that we've selected, and have some sort of trivia competition. So we might do some mock trivia trials or something at school. Yeah, it'll be interesting. Everyone will be masked, but we'll be able to meet up, and we've got enough space here that we can be in the same space. So that's nice.
Nice. Well, that's pretty neat. Geoff, how about you? Libraries are a little different at the secondary level, and definitely, I think, take on more of that community space. Like Metthea mentioned the coffee shop idea, and that definitely, I know, without the coffee, but the same type of collective meeting space at secondary, I know, has been the case. What's life in your library been like this year?
Yeah, it definitely has been a shift, and we're slowly evolving, but I don't think we'll ever, so long as we're dealing with COVID, regain quite that same level of community gathering space function. But as we've been working through it as a staff, we've come up with ways that students are able to come into the library, learning commons space during class time and during lunchtime. There's an advanced booking system, so we have 30 slots for the lunch hour for students who want to work in the library, and they can sign up online the day before, or they can sign up in person at the beginning of the lunch hour. And we're getting more and more use that way as that becomes more well understood. But yeah, I've been really busy, and a lot of traffic from classes, but also going to a lot of classes. Of course, we handle textbooks, and circulating those at the school, at high schools, has taken on a different look, because we're taking books to classrooms more often. And of course, we're doing that 4 times a year, where before in a semester system, we used to do it in the library twice a year. And that's, pretty peripheral, right, to most of what we're doing in the library, learning commons space. It's sort of an added feature of what we're doing, but it does give us a chance to check in with all the students and all the teachers. And we've been adding to that at Esquimalt High School this year to make sure that all the students are as firmly connected in a virtual way as we can help them be. So making sure that their G Suite accounts are enabled, making sure that everybody understands all of the different access accounts, making sure everybody's Wi-Fi is fully functional and that they're using the new managed print services effectively, and all those kinds of things, as well as their library accounts, so that they can put holds on and place, make reviews and those kinds of things. And we've actually tried to construct a bit of a virtual version of the way to connect students to each other and to teachers, and the conversation about books, by developing the School Library Learning Commons Instagram account, more than we have in the past. And so that's a work in progress, but I've had some really encouraging responses from students. They're really keen to be part of that and to tell the world about the book that they love and why it's so great, and to share that love of reading that way.
So I'm impressed that you guys have managed to maintain a booking system in place for those kids that wanted to use that drop-in library space like they did in the past. And tell me a bit more about the Library Learning Commons Instagram account. What role is that playing in your communication as a library?
Well, as we've been introducing students to the different accounts that are available to them, and reminding them, you can access our catalog, we've been featuring different students and staff members on the Instagram with their book recommendations,
Neat.
and then adding in new titles that we get in. And one of the things that we're still learning about is how to make that really appealing and to make the best use of hashtags to make sure that those books are connected to all the students that are interested. And one of the things that we did to support that was, as we were checking in with all the students about their accounts, we also had them fill out a user survey that identified all of their interests, both reading, but also when it came to like video games and sports and outside school interests, so that we have that as a way to kind of connect interesting reading that'll tie into those interests for each student. So it's a lot of data, which has taken a lot of time to work through, and that's still something that we're working on. But I'm hoping that sort of the combination will be able to really get to students in a way that in some ways we weren't able to before, because we were kind of relying on the positioning of the School Library Learning Commons within the building as a central location and a hub, and we had enormous traffic because of that location. And now all of our traffic is redirected in every other direction except towards the library. So this is one of the reasons that we're working it out through a virtual way instead.
Well, that's really interesting, and it sounds like it could potentially, you'll get a much better sense of who the students are that you're serving from a multitude of different lenses into their lives. So I guess that kind of brings me to my next question. And it seems like some of these strategies you've engaged students with are things that probably will benefit you long after, or benefit the role of the library in serving students long after COVID's done, hopefully. So I guess I'm going to ask each of you if there's things that you've done in the last 3 or 4 months that you think you're going to continue with, things that you're like, what, we should have probably done this a long time ago. This makes a lot of sense. Even COVID or no COVID, this is a really good strategy for engaging students. So Katherine, I'm going to just jump back to middle for a minute. I'm curious if there's anything that like this, I don't know if this is the right term, but it's like the COVID silver lining. So we kind of got forced to make this change, but it's actually something that will benefit a lot of folks in a different way. So is there anything at middle that you're planning to keep in your repertoire after we're done with COVID?
Yeah, well, I think I'll keep the book talks, the online book talks, and I would like to expand it so that we've started to have some guest speakers, but I would also like to have more student voices involved in that. I've been playing around with the furniture, and we always try and make it kind of as welcoming as we can, but that's been a little more challenging this year when we can't have some of our furniture and have to be really cautious about certain things. So I think we're starting to create some little zones for people so that they can have their own space. And I think that's something that I could keep going further with in this space. I know when I go to a bookstore or a library, I always try and find my own spot where I can sit.
That little chair in the corner somewhere. You just want to curl.
Totally, at the end of the snacks or something. So, so I think I'll continue moving towards with that. I'm looking forward to having more flexibility there, but I think also I've had some cool co-teaching opportunities where I've been able to have smaller groups and they've been able to have smaller groups by trying to give more space. And that's been really positive, like with half of the class coming down to do an activity with me, while the other half stays up with their homeroom teacher or their subject specific teacher to do another task. And that's been a really neat experience that I think more people are taking advantage of this year.
Well, that's really interesting. I guess that flexibility of not, instead of the class always coming to you going to them, and there's more opportunities that can come of that, I guess. How about you, Metthea? Is there anything are there any COVID silver linings in your school that you're going to keep with you for the long run?
I would echo Katherine on the going to other classrooms. So I do that in a regular year when I'm collaborating with teachers, but I don't often visit the classroom teachers for the classes that have prep in the library. And so going into their classroom gives me a better idea of what they're working on, and then I can bring them resources, maybe without them asking me like, hey, here's this, and they're always really happy to get that.
Yeah.
So I feel like I often have a reasonably good idea of what's going on in the school because so many people are coming to me, but that piece of going out more into the school certainly just allows me to have an even better read on that. So I do like that. Our fundraising is looking quite different this year, and scholastic book fairs aren't happening.
Right.
So I'm very happy instead that Monroe's and some of the other local independent bookstores are offering us book fair opportunities as a way of fundraising. And I think that's fantastic.
Yeah,
I
that's
really
awesome.
like the local feel of that.
Mhm.
And the other piece that I've noticed that has made the biggest difference is I've been really lenient with loan periods this year. And quite often in past years, you know, like some kids just wouldn't bring their books back. They couldn't get a new book after so long. And this year it's like, you only come every 2 weeks. You need books, just get books.
Right.
And pretty much without fail, the books make it back on time. I haven't lost a ton so far this year.
Wow.
So I think that kind of more flexibility in loan period has been a really good lesson for me. And I think it's not just good for me, but it's positive for the kids who don't maybe remember their books on time, and they still get to get new things. So the library is a more positive experience in that way. So I think that's a really big positive and a surprising one, but great.
Yeah. It's not amazing when you give somebody the benefit of the doubt how they can rise to the occasion sometimes. And our worst fears of losing all of our materials haven't materialized. And it's like when we lent out the Chromebooks and things like that last year, you know, I think 99.9% of them came back just fine. And
yeah, I did lose a lot of books last year as a result of COVID. However, now that the kids are back, I feel like because the public library hours are so limited, it's like 12 to 4, Monday to Saturday or something. It's real. They're so happy to get in here and get books because the public library, sure, they can put books on hold, but browsing and so forth is less of an option. So.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I could really see that because even if you go downtown, the selection is very limited. And you said you have to get there right in that little prime window of time and most likely wait in line for quite a long time too. So yeah, interesting. So anything, like if you were wanting to share a little suggestion or piece of advice with another one of your, same grade level counterparts around the district, if there's anything that's like, you know what, I figured this piece out, it was a bit of it wrapped my head around it this year, and anything you want to share or words of wisdom you'd have for other librarians in your area. Maybe we can go to Geoff and see if he's got any little nuggets of wisdom to share.
Well, we did have a secondary teacher librarians meeting, and I passed along this piece that I was just amazed by the quality of the production of this resource. It's produced by an organization called Civics that organizes the student vote every year. And that's CIVIX for civics. And this is a resource that's fairly new. It's called Control F. It's Find the Facts. It's available in French and English. And they have just phenomenal video series and activities, lessons about very quick and powerful ways to identify less reputable, less authoritative news sources, and to get what is truly the facts from a situation. And with the U.S. election and the provincial election and COVID and the enormous volume of misinformation and disinformation swirling around all three of those situations, the time was just perfect. So that was an opportunity that we made full use of as we were doing these orientations for our students, to walk them through, okay, here's some tools, right, that you can use. And so I can see that even without that confluence of those three events, down the road, that's definitely something that we'll make lots of use of as well.
That's a great tip, and I'll make sure that any resources you suggest, or I'll link them down in the notes at the bottom, so anybody that watches or listens to this, they'll be able to access those as well. Great suggestion. Yeah, Civics is a great organization. Even their student vote suite of resources that they send out is so comprehensive, and anybody that's looking to do, it doesn't even have to be a federal or provincial vote either. It could be a municipal or a student student vote or anything like that in the school student council or anything like that, it's a great resource. Thanks, Katherine. How about you? Any resources or tips or tricks you'd like to share from the middle perspective?
I've been doing some online workshops through Destiny Follett, and they've got a whole free workshop series, which I didn't know about until this. I've been a librarian for a few years, but this year I finally figured out how to customize my catalog homepage. So now I have some learning links on there, and they can take them directly to the research toolkit on our school website or to the book talks that I'm doing, and I can identify those book talks in a link so they can go directly to those books as well. So that was a really big find for me because Destiny is not intuitive, but it can be customized quite a lot. It's really, really cool, the changes that you can make to it.
Personalized, yeah. Hey?
Yeah.
Yeah, neat. Okay, well, if you can send me the link to that, I'll share that in the notes as well. How about you, Metthea? Anything you'd like to share or mention?
Not so much resources, but I found with planning this year, I've got a lot of more teachers using the online suite like Google collaborative tools for planning, because at our school we have like staggered recess, staggered lunchtime. So we can't really meet at lunchtime to have meetings. Any meeting has to be after school or before school. And that really makes a short window. So a lot of the collaboration that's been going on has been more planning online and sometimes through Zoom, but more kind of things through Google that I feel like the teachers are adopting more so this year as a result of that kind of time constraint. And that, in my opinion, makes everybody's job easier.
Yeah, good point. Yeah. I'd imagine the role of librarian as tech support has probably only increased this year as well, which I know has always been sort of a side of your desk initiative, but I'm sure the demand is higher than ever, that's for sure. Any additional thoughts or things you'd like to share before we wrap up for this afternoon?
One thought. Sorry, go ahead, Katherine.
I was just going to say, for maintaining your own personal health, I've found that setting alarms has been really helpful this year, because I'm supporting 3 schedules at my school, and I just found that at any point during the day, during breaks, after school, there's a constant stream of people who need things.
Yeah.
And so I wasn't taking my breaks. And so I've actually set an alarm on my watch that goes off and it says, go take your break. And I just stop whatever I'm doing and leave the building. So that would be, like, I think it's really important to have those boundaries. We want to be there for everybody. And especially in this role, we're in a really supportive role, but we need to also be taking those times for ourselves to be healthy.
Yeah, that's a really important reminder. And then you have pesky district people bugging you to record podcasts with them. So, and how about you, Geoff? What were you going to share there?
Well, I was just going to say Katherine's earlier point about the flexibility and power of adjusting for your own particular needs. Destiny Discover. There's a lot there. I was really surprised and pleased that I was able to customize it so that it reflected the way we've organized the library here at Esquimalt High School. And it was just so much more intuitive for students to use our fiction collection when they could see it completely seamlessly reflected in the visual representation, the icons that were, embedded within Destiny Discover. So there's a lot of different ways that we can use Destiny Discover to provide better access for students and our colleagues to the resources that are available. And one of those is through the National Film Board's campus service that we've been using at Esquimalt for the last little while, and I know their secondaries have been as well. And there's thousands and thousands of really, really high quality films that the National Film Board has made available through that, and that can be embedded within Destiny Discover, so that it's just taken the richness of our collection and our Canadian content especially to a completely different level. So but all of that pales in comparison to Katherine's most recent point, which is the absolute essential value of taking that time and balancing those demands, because you're absolutely right. It's just nonstop from the moment you arrive anywhere close to the building to the time you try to sneak away at the end of the day. And so if you don't take that time to yourself, it's a recipe for burnout. Absolutely.
On that note, I'll take a cue that will wrap things up for this afternoon and let you all go and enjoy the rest of your day. But I can't thank you enough for your time. Really appreciate the time you spent just to share with us, and can't thank you enough for your work and from the perspectives you passed along today. So Metthea, Katherine, and Geoff, thank you so much. I'm incredibly grateful to hear from you today. Thanks so much.
Well, thanks for the opportunity.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Thank you for watching or listening to the show. You can find all of our episodes, leave us a voice message, or send us any questions or comments at our website, shift-ed.ca. Until next time, take care.